guys? I'm Justin Ball, back with episode 7 of Work Smarter, Not Harder. Today's topic: zone changes in traffic, specifically loud to soft transitions with very little space in between. I've found that performing these at a high level requires a mastery of 3 things: stroke types, shifting, and touch. For any loud to soft transition, you're going to need a transitional stroke, which in this case is the downstroke. The lower I can get my downstrokes to stop, the more contrast I'll be able to create between my loud and soft playing. Shifting refers to the way that we move from one zone of the drum to another, in this case, the center to the edge. The more quickly I can shift between the two, the better my bead placement is going to be. This is much more sensitive at the edge, and any slight variation will cause a drastic difference in tone quality. Some people like to create a visual reference by labeling the playing areas. This is a great way to improve your aim when performing these quick shifts. These zone changes require a high amount of velocity, which can easily result in higher volume levels than anticipated. So, we need to develop the ability to move quickly but attack softly. Perhaps the most abundant source of these types of transitions is Delecluse's 12 Etudes for snare drum. Being the nerd that I am, I meticulously combed through the entire book in search of every single loud to soft transition within a small time frame. Once I did that, then I began to dissect the elements of each in hopes of refining the way that I practiced them. Looking at the finalized list, I noticed that all of them comprised of a combination of single strokes, buzzes, and drags. So I used these to categorize them based on the last loud note and the first soft note, using S for singles, R for rolls, and D for drags. In this case, there were a total of 7 combinations, as you obviously can't transition from a roll to a drag, and there weren't any instances of loud to soft drags in the book. Alright, enough chat. Let's jump into a few of these transitions that are most common and talk about ideas that you can use in the practice room. Loud singles to soft rolls are perhaps the easiest of these transitions. Because you're already playing loud and preparing mentally for the shift, there's a good chance you've got at least a small amount of tension built up. When we finally make that shift, that tension is easily transformed into pressure needed to play the buzz roll. Single to single is by far the most common loud to soft transition in this book. One good example of this is Delecluse 11, measure 18. This type of loud to soft, single to single transition is pretty clean cut. You gotta have really good downstrokes and a quick shift to the edge depending on the amount of time you have. However, there are other single to single transitions which require a bit more control. A good example of this is when the dynamics require additional movement prior to the zone change. With loud to soft zone changes in general, one thing I encounter a lot is compressing the rhythm of whatever is loud to create additional space to transition to what is soft. So, I like to make sure that it isn't a rhythmic issue first by playing just the bare bones, breakdown, whatever you want to call it, at a comfortable height. Next, I'll fill the 16ths and triplets in with my left hand, still at one height. Next, I'll go back to hand separate, add the crescendo, but without the zone change. Add in the left to fill in the spaces. Then add the shift to the edge. Lastly, I'll add an extra beat to make it groove in 4/4 so I can jam out to my favorite tracks before I lose my mind. Alright, so to avoid ever having to do anything this tedious in the first place, one thing you can do is find ways to sprinkle this type of stuff into your daily practice sessions. If you're using stick control, throw in some variations like 4 loud, 4 soft. If at first you're having trouble with this like I did, write in the stroke types until you're more comfortable with it. And at that point, then you can start throwing in some shifting. While you're at it, throw in some dynamic variations that require you to reset at the end of each repetition. You can also take other basic exercises like 16th timing and do the same. If you do this every day, eventually you'll be able to do it naturally, as these stroke type combinations will become a part of your everyday vocabulary. Alright, on to what I think is the most difficult of these transitions: loud rolls to soft singles. One of the most difficult examples of this is Delecluse 9, bars 6 and 7. One of the biggest mistakes I see with this type of transition is shifting too soon or during those last few strokes of the roll to prepare for the move to the edge, resulting in a weaker punctuation of the phrase ending. To combat this, I'll start by playing everything up to the last right buzz and focus on finishing it at full volume. Then I'll add the last left buzz and do the same thing. Once I'm confident in what this looks, feels, and sounds like, then I'm ready to add that downbeat. And once I can do this, I'm ready to add the rest of the excerpt. One of the things I mentioned earlier was that the quick shift to the edge can result in higher volume levels than anticipated. With loud roll to soft single transitions, this is actually much more likely, because unlike the loud single to soft roll transition, in which the tension to pressure relationship worked in our favor, the opposite is actually true here. In this case, the pressure needed for the roll is actually going to translate into tension for the soft singles if we're not careful. So while I'm focused on playing those last few buzzes at full volume, I can also make sure that I'm releasing all pressure and tension before making that move to the edge. If this isn't working for you, I've got one other thing you can try. Since you're already working with pressure and the arm motion from the buzz, what if you tried using double bounces on the 30 seconds following it? And that's a wrap for zone changes in traffic. Chances are, if you watch this entire video, you're probably hungry for more. If that's the case, leave me a comment down below and let me know what you're struggling with. If it's something I'm hip to, I'll make it happen. Be sure to head over to my website and download the free PDF and all supporting materials. Stay safe out there and happy practicing.